Hi, welcome to Get Your Geechie On. I'm your TV producer, Blondina Mitchell, and I'm sitting here in the lovely Beaufort, South Carolina at the Upper Room Restaurant. I'm sitting here with the lovely Miss Anita Prather. Say hello to the viewers, Miss Anita.
Hey, hey, hey.
So today, guys, we wanted to be able to bring to you a little bit of information about the Gullah Geechie culture. And Miss Anita is wonderful with bringing that information to the forefront. So I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, because she's also known as Miss Pearlie Sue, and she's going to give us a little information about the Gullah Geechie culture. Miss Anita?
Well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody to Beaufort, South Carolina, known as the Queen of the Sea Islands. It is where a lot of our history began. Especially African Americans. If you're looking for the beginning of our history in America, it starts right here in South Carolina, because Gullah is the taproot of African American history. And when we don't have Gullah history, then African American history is not complete. And if African history is not complete, then we know South Carolina and American history and world history is not complete. So we thank you for coming, first of all, for opening up your homes to us so that we can tell you a little bit about we culture. And when we say we culture, that includes you too. Because Gullah is not a me tale, but it's a we tale. It includes all of us.
Yes.
And it's the umbilical cord that takes us all the way back to the womb of civilization, which is Mother Africa. So welcome to Gullah Country, USA.
Yes. Thank you for that, Miss Anita. So Miss Anita, what would you say to someone who has absolutely no information or background about the Geechie Gullah culture? Where would they start?
Well, again, South Carolina is the best place to start here. Because most of us that entered into America as enslaved Africans came through these ports of South Carolina. Be it Charleston, where the greatest numbers came through, Georgetown, up there near Myrtle Beach, and right here in Beaufort County where we are. So when you start looking for your American roots in America as an African person, you need to start in South Carolina. And so it's the blending of all of those cultures that came together during the transatlantic slave trade, that terrible time in our history where West Africans were kidnapped and brought here as enslaved people to be the workers on these great plantations of the South, and brought all of their cultural ways. And those cultural ways blended with that of the Europeans that became the masters of these plantations. But we cannot forget the Native Americans that were the original landowners. And so it's the blending of those three ethnic groups that come together during this time in our history that brings this beautiful culture that's called Gullah Geechie today.
Yes, that's wonderful. But let me ask you this question. What is the difference, or is there a difference between Geechie and Gullah?
It's just that on the Georgia side, we tend to call ourselves Geechie, and on the South Carolina side, we call ourselves Gullah. And one of the theories is that the word Gullah came from the Angola tribe. There's a tribe that is called the Gullah people. Then the term Geechie thinks that maybe it has something to do with the Geechie River that runs in Georgia, or that there was a Geechee tribe that's in Sierra Leone, that maybe that's where the term Geechie came from. The masters trying to pronounce that, they came up with the word Geechie. But interchangeable, Gullah Geechie. At one time they called the people Gullah in the language Geechie, but now we're Gullah Geechies.
Awesome. Awesome. So at this present time, what is being done to preserve the history of it? Do we have anything that's going on as far as what I would call a connection? Like if somebody really wanted to really get more involved in studying it or being, around the culture, what do we have right now that is available?
Well, you have the Gullah Geechie Heritage Corner, who's now one of our very own from Beaufort, South Carolina, here from St. Helena Island, to be specific, Victoria Smalls. And she's now the new executive director of the Gullah Geechie Cultural Heritage. That was oh gosh, I don't know how many years now, but Michael Allen from up there in your area was the, I guess, sort of the coordinator at the beginning to do the study. You had Congressman James Clyburn, who was a great supporter, and under the Bush administration, it was actually signed off and became official. And so it's a management plan was developed to show how to help preserve and showcase this Gullah Geechee culture for future generations. So that work is still going on, and it's for 4 states, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, because the Gullah Geechee corridor is said to run as far north as Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way down the coastline to Jacksonville, Florida. And so that's still going strong. And you have other institutions. Of course, you have the Penn Center, which is over here in Beaufort County in Sehona Island. That's still going strong to help preserve the culture. You have Pastor Hodges he just purchased the old Red Piano Gallery building, and so he's moved his business like Benson's Art Gallery, and now he's turned it into a Gullah Geechee Visitor Center that houses beautiful artifacts and artwork, as well as it has an event space where you can do small groups of about 40 with live entertainment, food, and history. Then you also have different festivals that have been developed over the years. You have the Gullah Festival that will be coming up in May, Memorial Day weekend, to commemorate and to remember the old Decoration Day celebration that was started by newly freed blacks. People don't know that Memorial Day, as we know it today, was actually started by newly freed blacks in Charleston.
Well, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have before me here, it's the Decoration Day that's coming up on Saturday, May the 28th of this year. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Girl, you know that's right up my Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You know, the war ended April 9th of 1865, only 3 days short of exactly 4 years, because it started April 12th of 1861, and it started here in South Carolina. And the U.S. colored troops came through Charleston after the war ended and realized that some of their colored comrades had been buried in a mass grave, had died in a Confederate prison camp right then downtown Charleston. And they'd not been given proper burial rights and military rights. So they dug up all 200, I think it was like 257, I'm not sure the exact number, about 250 plus bodies they dug up, and they reinterred them into individual graves at the old Washington racetrack and jockey club, which was a place where the aristocrats, the Southern aristocrats, used to boast their wealth before the Civil War. And so during the Civil War, it became, like I said, this prison camp. And like I said, blacks were not given the honor of at least being buried in individual graves. So they interred them in individual graves. They decorated the graves with flowers and shells and flags. And that's where we got the term Decoration Day from. And that's an old West African tradition of decorating the graves. Mm-hmm. And so it took them 2 weeks to do that.
Wow.
2 weeks. And after the 2 weeks, on May 1st of 1865, was the first Memorial Day celebration in Charleston. And let me back up. And when they had made all the graves, they put a white fence around it. And they whitewashed the fence, and they had a sign, here lies the martyrs of the racetrack. And like I said, it took them 2 weeks, and so they planned a big Memorial Day service where they would have speeches and a parade. And they said the first parade had about 10,000 participants, almost 4,000 were children. Wow. And so you had the U.S. colored troops, as well as some of the white Union troops, You had the white abolitionists from up north, because of course the Confederates, all the white Southerners had evacuated Charleston, except for a few. And you had like I said, the blacks that were there. And so it was a huge, huge celebration. And they had speeches and races and marches and that kind of stuff that went on. And that celebration continued, and eventually it moved to Beaufort because we had the first national cemetery in South Carolina. Right in the middle of the war, President Abe Lincoln designated 29 acres in the center of Beaufort proper as the final resting place for those who fought to preserve the Union. So at first, whites did not celebrate Memorial Day as we know it. They celebrated the Confederates Memorial Day. And for South Carolina, that was May 10th. That was Stonewall Jackson's birthday. And so they celebrated that. But for us, it was a big time here. And that Decoration Day celebration, once it moved to Beaufort, became such a huge celebration. It was one of the largest celebrations in the nation. And growing up here, this street that's right in front of this restaurant where we are, the Upper Room Cafe, right here on Boundary Street, on corner Boundary and Reboat Road. When you're looking for something good to eat, stop in. And have a word with Apostle Green and his beautiful wife, Prophetess Green. But anyway, this main street, Bay Street, would be lined with food vendors. And Carnival would come into town. Carnival would come and be here almost 2 weeks. And one of the carnivals that came was Silas Green from New Orleans. And right next to the cemetery, the National Cemetery, was Sam Stokes' garage, was Sam Stokes' filling station. And he had an empty lot in the back, and that's where the carnival was set up. And so where I lived was only a block away from that. So I could look out my window and I could see the Ferris wheel.
So it's like a carnival where they had like cotton candy and elephant ears and candy apples and
yes, ma'am.
all the nice Italian sausage hot dogs.
Oh my goodness, I don't know about the Italian, but all I wanted was the candy apple and the popcorn.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. I tell you, I couldn't sleep for almost 2 weeks. The whole time the carnival, I couldn't sleep.
And they still have this carnival to this day?
They don't bring it into town no more because what eventually happened was, like I said, it was a huge celebration. And by daybreak, you literally could not drive these streets because that's how many black folks, colored folks would be in town for Decoration Day. If you talk to any of your elders in Charleston that's 65 or over, ask them if they remember coming to Beaufort for Decoration Day.
Okay.
I'm here to tell you. And people would come by the busloads.
Oh, wow.
And they even had a steamship that came from Charleston, and they had one that came from Savannah. Emma Jean was one, and another one was called Leaving Girl. And they would come loaded down with people. And people would be dressed up in their finery. I mean, 5:30, 6 o'clock, people coming in evening guys, coming to Beaufort.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, honey, they'd be dressed up. The old farm buses would be cleaned up. And people who would go to work on the farm bus during the week, when Decoration Day came, they would be dressed up in their finery. Gloves and hats and all kinds of stuff coming into Beaufort for Decoration Day. There was a lady that went to church with me, and she told the story of her mother. They lived out in Burton, which is one of the rural areas around here, and how her mother went to Western Island and put one of those red wagons on layaway for a whole year so that she could have a way to bring her children into town for Decoration.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. So this is coming up on the 28th. Now, is this going to be a part of the original Gullah Festival of Beaufort?
What we do, the Gullah Festival came to be, the way it was created was some folks were sitting around talking about the old Decoration Day. And this young lady who had moved here from Ohio heard them talking. And she asked, what happened to her. And it died down around, started dying down maybe about the mid-70s or so. And, people moved away. And by, the powers that be in town at the time, like I said, it was basically a black celebration or northern whites. So the powers that be started putting ordinances in place, and so the carnival couldn't come into town anymore and that kind of stuff. And, you know, that was the highlight for the young people. And so, you know, the older people still held on to the cemetery service. That was the most sacred part. You had a parade every time, and you had the cemetery service. Where you have somebody from the high school reading the Gettysburg Address, you had the 21 gun salute, playing the taps and all of that kind of stuff. So that was the most sacred part. But for the young people, it was, you know, the carnival in Sam Stokes' garage. He would clean up the garage, and Bob Nichols would come from WKL.
I remember Bob Nichols.
I can see you out there looking good. Yes, yes. And I can remember my older cousins would be in front of the radio, patting their hair and prepping. And you know, as a child, y'all thinking, boy, can he really see us through the radio? And so, you know, so Bob Nichols was a big thing. He came down, Miss Flo Myers, they would be down there, and so they would turn that little greasy garage into a little juke joint.
Yes, yes.
And so he would be in there spinning the records, and he had his drummer drumming and that kind of stuff, and all the teenagers be packed in there.
Yes.
And the little kids, you know, we be peeping in. And we see them slow down and say, ooh, we gonna tell.
Yes.
Would tell us, get away from there.
Yes.
They'd run us from one window, we come and peep at another, peep to another window.
Yes.
But yeah, it would be huge.
Yes.
And people would be eating food, you know, out of their trunks and stuff like that, and cooking food on the side of the street. And you know, we start talking about salmonella. Oh, salmonella live up down the corner. Yeah, with them little 13 little funny looking children they got up there. You know salmonella. You know salmonella. Girl didn't know somebody was supposed to be getting sick, because potato salad stayed out all day. Nobody got sick. Nobody got sick or nothing like that. And so, but it was a huge celebration.
Yes.
And people came from everywhere. If you had moved away from here, you know, to go to work in New York or Philadelphia or DC or whatever, you came home for Decoration Day.
Yes.
Black folks didn't come home for 4th of July back then. 4th of July wasn't a big holiday for us. But if you had moved away from home, you had to come back home for Decoration Day. Because that's part of our culture, to honor the dead.
Yes.
And to give respect, pay respect to the dead. And so people came home. They came home. Oh my God. And so, you know what, since it was such a big part of my childhood, you know, when I started, you know, creating plays that dealt with the gullah culture, then that was one of the first ones I wanted to do, was Decoration Day.
Well,
so
listen,
we recreated.
Miss Anita here is also known as Miss Pearlie Sue. And I was able to check out one of her plays, and I'm telling you, if you want some laughter, you definitely need to see one of her plays. Which brings me to this point. Will you be doing that this May for the original Gullah Festival? Tell me about the character, Miss Pearlie Sue. How did that all come about?
My grandmother was a humdinger, and if you watch anything with Tyler Perry, you see Medea. My grandmother was a real Medea. She was pistol toting. She worked at Miss Helen's and those, but never called her employer Miss nobody. It was Helen, Rennie, get out my kitchen, bossing everybody.
Yes.
Excellent cook, seamstress, could build stuff, gardener, you name it, jack of all trade and master of many.
Yes.
And so, oh my gosh, that when I came up with Pearlie Sue character, it was just different parts of my grandmother. And then her cousins and her sisters and those that would be at her house, because like she worked at the Christensen's house until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She came home. She had a boarding house, so she would feed her boarders that came here to work, you know, on different jobs here. And she'd feed them, get them bedded down, and about 9 o'clock she'd be opening up her liquor house. And the characters would come in. She was in charge.
So what was your grandmother's name?
Rosa.
Rosa.
Rosa
Okay.
So when I think about Rosa Parks, she wouldn't have been the one that would have thrown Miss Rosa off the wall. No bus. Rosa would have thrown them off the bus.
That's right, because your grandmother was packing a pistol.
Oh, she was packing it. And she tell them where to come. She said, I'm going home, and it'll be there. Come and pick it up from there. That would be her. It wasn't like she'd be hiding. She said, I'll be at 1107 Washington, and you can come pick it up from there.
Yes, yes. So at the time that you came up with the character for Miss Pearlie Sue,
Pearlie Sue.
Pearlie Sue, was your grandmother living during the time?
She was still alive. I'm trying to think. Was she still alive? I think she had just recently died.
Okay, okay. It would have been awesome if she would have been able to see that.
She had just recently died.
So this particular play is going to be at the original Gullah Festival here in Beaufort, right?
Right. It was to make sure that we kept the history of how the festival came to be.
Yes.
As part of the celebration.
Yes.
This year we'll be moving it. We usually do it at Tabernacle Baptist Church, but this year we'll be moving it to the USC Center for the Arts. We'll have 3 o'clock. We'll have a 3 o'clock show and a 6 o'clock show.
Awesome.
And so we're looking forward to, entertaining and educating our guests and our families as they come to celebrate Gullah Festival.
Yes.
To find out how Gullah Festival actually got started from decoration.
Yes. So for the upcoming show with Aunt Pearlie Sue, are there tickets already in place that the viewers may
in fact, they can Eventbrite. The tickets will probably go on sale at the beginning of March.
Y'all hear that, viewers? At the beginning of March.
Right, and they'll be able to start purchasing their tickets and get their seats and getting in place. Please don't wait. We just finished our Christmas show, and people at 7 o'clock were still calling me to try to get tickets, texting me, and we were totally sold out. So I would advise people to buy tickets early.
Yes. So listen, viewers, if you are wanting to see Aunt Pearlie May, in May, and this is going to be the same date, right?
I'm pretty soon on the 28th.
On the 28th. Keep an eye out on Eventbrite. And again, this will be here, right here in Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, in addition to that, there's some other things that's going to be going around.
Right, the Gullah Festival starts on Friday.
Okay.
And they'll have Gullah historical tours people can take. We'll have, on stage we'll be down at the waterfront park at our beautiful, beautiful waterfront park, the Henry C. Chamber Waterfront Park, 1 Bay Street. And so we'll have entertainment going on there. On Friday night, we usually have the Gullah Caribbean dance night show that night, and that's a lot of fun.
Yes.
And then on Saturday, we start at 10. And so we'll have stage entertainment the whole day. The vendors will be out there, food vendors, craft vendors. It's just a big family affair. It really is. It's a nice place to be. And just being out on the waterfront is such an awesome thing. And then we close out on Sunday. We'll have the Hour of Power service that Sunday morning from church out there on the water. And then we kick off again with the stage entertainment. And then we close out at 5 with the Paris Island Marine Corps Band. Because again, we want to keep it connected to, paying homage to those who died to preserve our country. And so, yeah. And then we finish up with the Gullah Festival. But on Monday, we actually have the Memorial Day Parade that starts at 10, and the cemetery services.
Yes.
So you can really get a feel of how Memorial Day started, how we celebrated it, and how we continue to keep the legacy going.
Awesome. Now, I got to ask this because I love to eat. So, what kinds of, from the last Gullah Festival, what kinds of stuff, they were like crab legs and
you got
shrimp
peas and rice, you got gumbo, you got frog stew.
What is frog stew?
Frog stew, that's the shrimp, and some people call it Old Country boil.
So it's not frogs, y'all. You're not talking about the frogs.
No, it's sausage and corn and white potato and shrimp. Some people put neck bones in it. Some folks, add a little extra kick.
Yes.
It's delicious. And all kinds of rice dishes. Okra rice, red rice, peas and rice.
Making me hungry.
Wash the rice. So lots of food. And you got the carnival type foods. People have that kind of stuff there as well.
So it sounds like we got plenty of food to eat,
Mm-hmm.
lots of entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of stuff from an educational perspective.
Yes.
You get a chance to actually meet Pearlie Sue.
And I don't want to forget this. One of the special offerings that we have during the Gullah Festival is a seminar that's called Lest We Forget. And Miss Charlotte Pazant Brown coordinates that. She is the daughter of one of the co-founders, Miss Rosalie Pazant. And she does a Lest We Forget series. And what the purpose of that is for people to get an understanding of the culture. We have different people on there. It's a seminar. You can hear the history firsthand, sometimes primary resources as well as some secondary resources, but a lot of primary resources of folks who actually was here and can tell you about what it was like. And some of the other things that they deal with is some of the issues that we're dealing with today as well. So that's an awesome piece that's open and free to the public. There's no cover charge, but a lot of awesome information.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, I have to ask a question because in regards to the language, I know we're here in Beaufort right now, but I'm from the Charleston area, Charleston, South Carolina area. And so when I go up to a lot of the islands, I can pick up on the different dialect. But for our viewers, some of them may have no idea what is it like. What does the Geechie language sound like? Can you give them a little Geechie something?
Oh, yeah, you know what una deya, the day deya. And when una deya, gal, the day deya. Yeah, that's the note.
So translated, what does that mean?
The una deya, when you are here, the dare ain't there. The dare, as in D-E-E-R, as in Bambi, is not there. And when una ain't there, and when you're not there, the dare there, the dare is here. So the una there, the dare there. But when una ain't there, the dare there.
That is absolutely amazing. So, would there be someone or a lot of a combination of people that it'll be in their natural element? They will literally be speaking.
Some you'll hear, some, and you know, and I tell people all the time, you know, people come and they ask me, they say, what are Gullah people at? I said, what are you looking at?
Yes.
You know, we're not still in the cotton fields. We're not still in the swampy rice fields. You know, we're not stirring the indigo ponds. You know, unless we're, you know, Arian King Comer, who is a batik artist, and she's in Charleston now. But yeah, Gullah is healthy evolving, just like American culture. You know, people from foreign countries don't come here and look for us to still be in pioneer clothing.
Exactly.
You know, so American culture is ever evolving. So is the Gullah culture ever evolving.
Yes.
So what we hear now in Ranky Tanky, and just won a Grammy, you know, may not sound exactly the way great grandmama would have sung the song, but that's their version of Gullah. And we have to respect that because we want the culture to continue to go on.
Yes, most definitely.
And we still, and it doesn't matter how we vary it, it always comes back to those African blue notes.
Yes, yes.
We're still here.
Yes, yes.
So it doesn't matter. So
Yes.
if we go, listen, your children, listen, your children, listen, your children, was I tell the story, listen, your children, listen, your children. Una come from heaven, for said we be free. Yeah, listen, your children, listen, your children, listen, your children. Was I tell the story? Listen, your children, listen, your children. Jesus come from heaven, for said we free.
Yes, yes. That is absolutely beautiful. Listen, you guys, you have to make it a priority to get here. This festival, the Geechie, let me make sure I correct that, the original
Gullah Festival.
Make sure you get that right. The original Gullah Festival will be here in Beaufort starting May the 27th through the